If Samuel was the kind of child that did not answer when his parents were calling, he would have missed out on an encounter. 1 Samuel chapter 3, from verse 6 to 9. Again, the Lord called Samuel, and Samuel got up and went to Eli and said, "Here I am, you called me." "My son," Eli said, "I did not call you. Go back and lie down." A third time the Lord called Samuel, and Samuel got up and went to Eli and said, "Here I am, you called me." Then Eli realized that the Lord was calling the boy. So Eli told Samuel, "Go and lie down, and if he calls you, say, 'Speak, Lord, for your servant is listening.'" One of the first things that came to mind when I was reading this passage was how if Samuel was the kind of child that did not answer when his parents were calling, he would have missed out on an encounter. And I think it draws my attention to the fact that we have the most encounters with godly purpose and God himself when we do things the right way in our everyday life. Eli was an old man. I cannot imagine how overbearing you would have been on this young boy. Well, we know how to call you for little tax and everything, but that's an assumption. Let's look at it from the Bible itself. Moses was serving his father-in-law when God called him. It's the same way that we find that David too as well. You see that God always looks for those whose hearts are right with, not just before him, but in the things that they are doing, in that mundane and regular way of life that they are living. Look for instance at David. David was protecting his flock when God was building in him the capacity to shepherd the people. Then let's look at the New Testament again. You will see that certain people still have this assumption that when God comes to them, it's going to be something miraculous. But the Bible tells us in the book of Hebrews, people have entertained angels without knowing. They're referring to Abraham. It was Abraham's nature just to be cautious, just to be hospitable. And so he ran up to those people and invited them into his house. And that was how his wife got the word for her child. If you also look at the people in the parable of the sheep and goats in Matthew chapter 25, and some people are saying, "Well, Lord, when did we ever see you needy and naked and all?" And Jesus said something. He says, "When you did it for any one of these people, you did it for me." So many times we are expecting two grand things and we leave the small and regular ones alone. You leave your church attendance alone. You leave the way you treat your parents, your siblings alone. And you're now trying to treat other people outside. But in these little passages, God is teaching us something. He's teaching us that he's paying attention to these little relationships, these little things that we take for granted. God takes note of the mundane and he takes note of the small things.